Here we go.
Yes, people. How are you guys doing today on this wonderful Monday? Should I say afternoon or evening? I never know which one to say. But I got a wonderful guest for you guys today. I got Football London's chief Arsenal correspondent, the main man himself. Kaya is in the building. I always struggle to pronounce your last name. Is it Kaya and then
Kaya Kaynak? Yeah.
Kaynak.
You got it.
After the third time, you'd think I would get it, but it's wonderful to have you on. I think we've had you on every transfer. The last 3 transfer windows, we've had you on at least one. So I appreciate you giving me your time to come on the channel and to talk about everything Arsenal. Of course, you are the chief correspondent for Football London, and a lot of people are going to take what you say as gospel. So just so the aggregators know, not everything he's saying is 100% what's going to happen. Sometimes it's just his opinion. So before we start, I just want to put the disclaimer there, right? And then, so let's get into it. How you feeling, man? How you feeling about the end of last season going into this summer? And what do you think of the business we've done so far?
Yeah, good. I mean, it's been a great end. It was obviously not a great end to the season, but since the end of the season, it's been great pretty much for Arsenal. Everything Arsenal wanted to happen has happened. They've been able to get Kai Havertz over the line. Jurrien Timber and Declan Rice should both be done this week, fingers crossed. And then the signings of the contract they've been able to get done, Reece Nelson, William Saliba. Then on the women's side as well, Alessia Russo joining the club. So from all round, from an Arsenal perspective, it's been a really good few weeks. It's hard not to feel positive. I think if you're feeling negative about Arsenal, then I don't know when you'll feel positive. I don't know what more you need to feel positive about Arsenal right now. It's looking pretty good.
Let me ask you this. What did you think of the ending of last season and the trajectory? Was it so much doom and gloom around the club on looking from the inside, or was it as much of optimism going into next season as there was going into this season?
I think what Mikel Arteta is very good at is making sure that these sort of periods where Arsenal are kind of down, they don't last too long. He's very good at bouncing back. He's very good at picking up the vibes and making sure everyone's positive quickly as possible. Obviously, it was disappointing the way they fell apart. Those 2 losses to Brighton and Nottingham Forest were really poor performances. But after that, the game against Wolves, the positivity around Granit Xhaka's departure and how heartwarming that was as a moment, I think that lifted the spirit of the camp. I think everyone's feeling pretty positive again. I think all the business has been really good. Obviously, it was disappointing to end the way it was, but at the same time, none of us expected Arsenal to be there. None of us expected Arsenal to be in a title race. So I think to say that you're disappointed they didn't win is maybe a little harsh, given that none of us expected them to be there. So yeah, it's positive. I think all the negativity seems to have been blown away. All that cobwebs from last season seems to have gone. Obviously now, preseason will be crucial, and we'll start to see the new signings and how they bed in and what that means for the team. But thus far, it seems to be going pretty well for Arsenal this summer.
No, it definitely is. So maybe let's go into Xhaka first, because last show that I did, which was last Monday, you broke the news that Xhaka's deal to Leverkusen was done. And was this done a long time ago? It was put pen to paper on that day, or was it a situation where we were just waiting to see what happens elsewhere? Could there have been a situation where Xhaka actually stayed?
So I think when people maybe got a bit confused earlier on in the reporting was it was advanced talks. It was never a fee agreed. That's always an important distinction. So they were still talking about what that kind of stuff, the payments and all that kind of stuff, the structuring. Arsenal obviously wanted to go higher than the £13 million that were initially being reported, and they managed to negotiate Leverkusen up to €25 million or £21.5 million. So yeah, it's worked out pretty well for Arsenal. I think we're all pretty happy with that fee. I don't think Arsenal could have got much more for Granit Xhaka than they did there. And those talks have been in the works for a long time. Xhaka was very much had his heart set on the move. He'd been told he would be allowed to leave. It was just dependent on getting that replacement in confirmed. And now it seems that Declan Rice is coming in. Obviously, Kai Havertz is looking like he's going to play in the position Xhaka played last season as well. So all that's being done. And yeah, with all that done, obviously Xhaka was then given the green light to complete the move to Leverkusen. I think we all wish him the best of luck out there because he's been a great servant to Arsenal. There's been many lows, but also many highs. And I think we should focus on the highs, given how it ended. Definitely a positive ending to his Arsenal story. And yeah, we see him go with a heavy heart, but I think we're excited to see what's coming in next season.
And you know what? Before we get into some of the new signings, maybe just let's look at some of the potential outgoings. Who do you think? What do you think is going to happen with Kieran Tierney? Because it's kind of gone quiet with Kieran Tierney. I haven't really heard much news on KT.
Yeah, I haven't heard much on him for a while either. I have been looking into it. It's a difficult one. He's in Nuremberg with the team now. He's training there. He's expecting to go out to America for the preseason tour as things stand. Unless an offer comes in for him, I don't see that changing between now and Sunday when the team fly out for the preseason tour in America. And listen, Mikel Arteta didn't use him very often last season, but I think he still values him as a member of the squad. And with that going on and all the other stuff, Arsenal obviously are bringing in a fullback, which means maybe Tomiyasu will be the backup left back. And then you wonder what that means for Kieran Tierney going forward. It does seem as though the team is evolving tactically away from him, even though he is a very, very good player who's got a lot to offer Arsenal. I just think that for his best interest, it might be good to seek an exit. I know that I haven't heard anything to suggest that Arsenal will definitely accept offers, but I think you can maybe read between the lines of Mikel Arteta's selection policy last season. If a good offer comes in, maybe they'll consider it. As things stand, a good offer has not come in. We know that Newcastle are among the teams interested, but beyond that, I've not heard anything too concrete on Kieran Tierney's future. And it would be a shame to see him go again because he was such a good servant for Arsenal, particularly in those early days. But it's another one where if Arsenal can make a good bit of money on him, if it were up to me, I think I'd want around 30 to 35 million for him, particularly when you consider that he cost 25 to bring in.
Is the move to Newcastle gone quiet completely? You're saying basically?
No. I'm not saying that. I just haven't heard about it for a while. I know Newcastle were interested early in the window. I don't know if they've gone away and obviously focused on the Sandro Tonali deal. I don't know if they're maybe looking elsewhere. But no, I'm not saying that Newcastle interest has gone away completely at all. I think they're still on the scene by the sound of things. But I think it's a case of maybe just waiting for that offer to come in.
There has been links to Arsenal wanting Cancelo, Joao Cancelo from Manchester City. Now, I haven't seen too many links of Joao Cancelo recently, but is it possible that Arsenal could sign another defender in the case that Kieran Tierney goes, and maybe that could be Joao Cancelo? And I know the most absurd thing that I seen on Twitter was people making rumors of a swap deal, but I don't think that's going to ever happen.
I don't know who Arsenal would send in the other direction, so I don't know if Pep would. I don't know if Pep would go for that. It's for the same reasons that Arteta doesn't seem to maybe fancy Kieran Tierney right now. I can't see Kieran Tierney fitting into a Pep Guardiola side. I can see him fitting into a lot of teams, just not a Pep Guardiola team as things stand. But with all that in mind, Cancelo, I think, is one that's maybe going as is unlikely as things stand to happen, just because you think about how much he'll cost. The fees being quoted around the £70 million mark. When Arsenal confirm Havertz and Rice, Timber and Rice, their spending this summer will have gone over £200 million without some significant sales. Then go and sign another £70 million player. I'd be surprised myself, especially when you consider Zinchenko and Tomiyasu there at left back, White and Timber there at right back. They've got plenty of options in the fullback positions. So if Tierney were to leave, I think Arsenal will be able to get by without him being replaced necessarily. There's very exciting youngsters in the academy. Raul Walters and Lino Souza, two very, very good players coming through. So maybe they'd just sort of leave the door slightly ajar for those youngsters to maybe get a chance if needs be. But I have to say I'd be surprised if Cancelo happened, just because of the wages he command, the fee he command, and also I don't think Manchester City are too willing to sell to Arsenal, given that they're their main title rivals. They learned from last season. So,
well, we have been linked to Laporte and Cancelo and Gundogan. Yes. So Arteta's still shopping in the Man City market store, if you want to say. But I want to ask you another question. Before we get into Partey and all the other transfers, people, do me a favor. 8 minutes into the video, we only have like 30 likes. You can do much better than that. Make sure you hit that like button. We have a special guest for you guys here today. And if you have any questions that of course are not rude, I'll make sure I get to them. So please be nice to the guest people. Let's get into the next point. There has been some staff shakeups with of course Steve Rowland leaving and the head doctor at Arsenal, Gary, leaving. Do you think this is just Arteta taking the Sir Alex Ferguson approach of things, just shaking it up, changing things around in a couple of years, trying to get some new ideas in the office with the manager change?
I don't know about that. When it comes to Gary O'Driscoll, the club doctor, I think it's more for family reasons that he's moving, and the opportunity has come up to go to Manchester United, and he's been with Arsenal for 13 years, and I think Arsenal have already potentially got a replacement in. I wouldn't want to say that for certain, but I'll double check that before reporting it. But yeah, it looks like Arsenal have made moves on that front. When it comes to Steve Round, Yeah, I don't know if Arteta's looking for a sort of Ferguson type thing. It's not been very long for him to do that. I know that his primary assistant, the one who he turns to more often than not, I'd say, is Albert Stuyvenberg. That's his sort of main number 2 guy. And Steve Round has done a fantastic job in helping oversee the cultural change at Arsenal. But I wonder if Arteta maybe feels that the culture now has headed towards the position where he wants it, and maybe he feels it's okay to start employing someone else or someone a bit younger. I don't know, in answer to that question from Oleade, who's going to be replacing him. I don't even know if they're going to go for a replacement, because they've got a lot of assistants. Obviously, Stuyvenberg, as I mentioned before, Carlos Cuesta is there as the player development coach. Miguel Molina is a chief analyst as well. So lots of staff within the coaching setup already who are there. So I do wonder if Arsenal will go for a replacement for Steve Round. I don't know anything on that front, I'm afraid.
Perfect. And you know what, since we're 10 minutes in, we haven't mentioned this yet. You have started a new YouTube channel, and the link to your channel is in the title of the video. You just click on it. As you're watching this video right now, you can click on it and go subscribe to his YouTube channel. I know you used to do mostly articles on Football London, and Football London has their own channel also, the Arsenal Way, if I'm not mistaken. What encouraged you to make your own channel?
I was just keen to give another way for Arsenal fans to connect with their club. So I don't think there's too many journalists within the press pack who go week in, week out, who are there at press conferences, at games, at most things to do with the club, who can give you that access that maybe other people can't provide. So I just thought that maybe it's another way to bring fans a little bit closer to the club. It's another way for me to interact with people as well, which I always enjoy doing. I love hearing what people have to say. I love hearing what people's thoughts are on Arsenal, because this is a discussion at the end of the day. It's all a game of opinions, and I just like hearing what people have to say. And it's something a bit different for me. It's something that just, I think, inspires me to be a bit more creative, to come up with different things, and to explore a different medium, which I'm always trying to do and always trying to expand in terms of a personal following. So yeah, all that stuff's going on, but it's really exciting. Please do subscribe it. I suppose that's what like and subscribe is what you're supposed to say. That's what the YouTube is. I'm following you now, Gal. You show me how to
You got your own spin on it. I seen it. I've watched a couple of your videos. Honestly, very informative, and of course, the way you deliver it. You're very used to speaking about Arsenal. So a lot of people are going to comment, and especially if you're able to break some news on your channel, immediately will go viral. I'll tell you that.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
That's the plan. Anyways, let's get back to the show. Everyone, please do subscribe to his channel. The link is in the title to his channel. And you're quickly getting up there, or already past 1,000 subscribers so quickly.
I think we're up to 2.5 now, so it's going really well. Yeah, going really well. Thank you, everyone who's supported so far.
You'll be taking over me before by next time. I'm telling you. Let's get back to the main thing. Thomas Partey. We've been hearing a lot about Thomas Partey's potential exit, and this one here is a controversial conversation topic for a lot of Arsenal fans, because a lot of Arsenal fans still view Partey as one of the best DMs, and some people even view him better than Declan Rice. So the fact that we would be considering to sell him and to bring in a potential of Lavia or somebody else, some people would view that as a short downgrade or not an improvement in the squad overall, in the sense that you'd be removing Partey and Xhaka, bringing in Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, Lavia, and they would view it as, has our midfield actually gotten stronger or has it gotten weaker? So there's two aspects to this.
I think that's a really fair question. I think if Partey and Xhaka were both to go, you'd be losing 2/3 of a midfield that nearly won the Premier League last season. And that would be two massive losses, two big figures within the Arsenal dressing room, two experienced figures within the Arsenal dressing room. I guess to explain it from an Arsenal point of view, and it's my understanding they are open to offers on Thomas Partey, but as things stand, a sizable offer hasn't come in. And James Ben's reported the other day that he's sort of turned down potential advances from Saudi Arabian teams, which, he's very reliable when it comes to those kind of things. So I totally trust that. There is interest from Italy. I don't know if the Italian clubs would be able to kind of give the fee that Arsenal would want in order to make the risk of losing someone like Thomas Partey worth it. However, he does have 2 years left in his contract. He is 30 years old, so it's unlikely that he's ever going to generate more of a fee than he will this summer. And Arsenal want to get younger in that position. If you look at their options in the number 6 role, it's Thomas Partey, it's Jurrien, it's Mohamed El-Neni, obviously Declan Rice to come. But all three of those players I mentioned at the start are upwards of 30, and Arsenal are preparing for the future. They're building the squad. And if you look at how they do these kind of things, I think the model they're sort of trying to follow is a bit similar to what Liverpool have done in the past. So when Sadio Mane left, they signed Luis Diaz the window before, ready to come in. Obviously, he got injured, but ready to come in and take over that throne. And the plan is for Arsenal, if Partey does leave, and that's a big if at the moment because an offer hasn't come in that Arsenal would deem suitable. But if he does leave, then they want to bring in someone younger who can maybe learn alongside Jorginho, be an option to back up Rice. Maybe there'll be some games where Rice wants to play or Arteta wants Rice to play slightly further forward and he wants another younger 6 to come in. The options are there. And they'll maybe look to just bring in someone a bit more youthful in that position and another body in that position as well. So I'm with you. I think it would be a big risk to let go of Thomas Partey. I personally would like to keep him. But again, if he was to go, I do think I'd understand why he'd be leaving. And I think Arsenal, from a business point of view, it would make sense.
Okay. And I didn't know he was until 2025. I thought it was next year his contract's up. So I thought he only had 1 year left. You just told me that. Wow. I thought this whole time he only had 1 year left for some reason. Interesting. So that might change things. But why would Arsenal want to get rid of such a crucial player? Is it? Do you think it's just if we get the good enough money, we'd sell Partey, or would it be something else like maybe his injury history or the fact that he might not necessarily be starting week in, week out?
It could be a number of things, to be honest. The stuff I mentioned before, just about being able to get as good a fee as possible for him while they still can, that'll be a big part of it. All the financial aspects, Arsenal will view it as a chance to potentially, Partey is one of the higher earners at the club. Maybe they'll get someone younger in on cheaper wages who can eventually be a successor. So it's just long-term squad planning. That's potentially why they let him go, although he is, of course, a very good player who's got a lot to offer us.
No, fair enough. Now, before we go into any more outgoings, let's just talk about some of the potential incomings that we do know about. First, we got Kai Havertz. Very controversial incoming. A lot of people were shocked. 65 million pounds would assume that's you wouldn't invest that type of money on somebody you'd be putting on the bench. So what you said earlier with Granit Xhaka going out, do you view him as that left-sided 8 or?
Yeah, I mean, I've been told the plan is to use him in midfield. So that's the long-term ambition with Kai Havertz. But they have brought him in for his versatility as well. So he can play up front, he can play on the wings. And Arteta's a big fan of that. We've seen that in almost every signing he's made, that he likes versatility. So, yeah, that's the plan with Kai Havertz. I agree with you. It is a slightly, I guess, left field signing. I don't think anyone would have necessarily expected it. Because if you look at the positions where Arsenal were wanting to strengthen, I don't think anyone would have said, oh, they need another attacking midfielder at the top of the list, just with Martin Odegaard being in there and lots of young players like Emile Smith-Rowe, Fabio Vieira. There being plenty of options in there as well. So, I think that it's an interesting one. Maybe Arsenal are trying to move into if you look at Manchester City and what they've done, they tend to play with 1-6 and then 2 more offensive 8s. And I think that maybe is where Arsenal are heading towards. Xhaka obviously made those beyond the final line of defence runs, breaking the lines runs. And I wonder if maybe Arsenal are looking to get someone who's a bit more adept at that, a bit more of a natural at that. And Kai Havertz probably is. Xhaka did a really good job of it last season, but it's not his natural game. I think we'd all agree that. Kai Havertz, on the other hand, is a bit more naturally adept at that kind of stuff and is probably a better finisher in the box. So if you get him in those positions, he could get 10, 15 goals next season. And if he adds that to his game, if he adds that to Arsenal's game next season, they'll be in a much better position. So for me, it's a signing that does just about make sense, but I think the proof will be in the pudding when it comes to that one. I have to see what happens on the pitch.
Fair enough. Big up everyone in the comment section. Do me a favor. Don't forget to like the video. And we have some people already subscribing to your channel. So that's amazing.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget to subscribe to his channel. It is in the title of the video. You can click on it right now while you're watching the video and you don't have to go anywhere. Let's go on to the next topic, Declan Rice. First of all, how happy are you that we finally have gotten a massive deal over the line with relatively not as much obstacles as I thought we would have? We did have Man City come in, Bayern Munich. Basically, we've done so well. What is Mikel Arteta doing to get these players so infatuated to come here? Because we haven't had this type of pull, I would say, in a long time. Is it based on our performances, or is it just the manager's ability to go into a room? I know somebody recently made a joke. If he was in a room with an Mbappe, he would be an Arsenal player by the end of the week.
Maybe. I think we'd all quite like that. Arteta's certainly someone who's very good at convincing people. I think he's very intense when he talks, and he's very clear in what he wants, and he's very driven. And I think if you're someone like a Declan Rice who is deciding, let's be honest, this is the biggest move of his career. He's 24 years old. The next sort of 3-4 years are going to define how his career is viewed, if he's viewed as a success, if he's viewed as a failure. And with all that stuff going on, the decision has to be made from him. Where do I think is my best chance of having a successful career? And for a long time, Chelsea were in for him. Thomas Tuchel wanted him last summer before he got sacked, and Chelsea kind of fumbled it on that front. And then Arsenal realised, hang on, we can get this guy. And Arteta identified him as a player who he really wanted. He held talks with him at his house, I'm pretty sure, a while back. So all that stuff was going on. And he was able to convince him. A big presentation where he was able to say, look, this is where I view you. This is how we want you to play. This is what I'm going to do. This is where you can improve as well. And that is enough to convince him to come. I think Martin Odegaard said, I challenge anyone to have a conversation with Mikel Arteta and not walk away feeling inspired. So when it comes to that, that's a massive part of his pull. Obviously, Arsenal being in the Champions League is massive. Obviously, Arsenal challenging for the Premier League is massive. But I think Mikel Arteta being probably the most exciting young coach in Europe is a big part of it too. Lots of players now want to come and play for him. He's established himself. If you talk to any of the Arsenal players at the squad, they'll probably tell you, yeah, this is a great place to be. This is a great place to play your football. And I think a lot of people want to be a part of that.
Fair enough. And now Declan Rice, 105 million. It's a lot of money, but sometimes we just have to pay this type of money for quality players. And I'm happy that Edu and Mikel Arteta and the Kroenkes were able to deliver the player. Let me know, what do you think? The complexity of this deal. Is this one of the more coups, the biggest coups that we've done in a long time? Or would you say it was just the fact that we paid the money, we shouldn't be, because a lot of people are saying we've paid the money, so we shouldn't be applauding Edu. But do you, behind the scenes, looking at it, how much work that it had to go into this? Give people the breakdown of like how hard this kind of transfer is.
It's a lot of work that goes into this because Declan Rice is arguably one of the most exciting midfielders in the Premier League, arguably one of the best midfielders in the Premier League in his position last season. You're looking at Rodri above him. You could argue Thomas Partey, although he tailed off massively towards the end of the season. Beyond that, there's not too many better than him in terms of defensive midfielders. And I'd say that when you think that Manchester City were interested, Chelsea were interested, Manchester United were interested, Bayern Munich were interested, you think about all those teams and where Arsenal are coming from. In the recent past, if Arsenal would have been interested in the player and those other four teams have been interested in the player, game over, job done. Arsenal aren't getting him. Now, with the negotiation strategy they have with Edu forming good relationships with the sporting directors across the Premier League, and obviously Arteta doing his part to convince the players to come. And let's not forget Richard Garlick is a big part of the team as well. With all that going on, Arsenal have moved really swiftly. And obviously £105 million is a big fee, and it's not going to be easy for him to live up to that. And I think lots of people will judge him by that fee, just as they have done with Nicola Pepe, for example. But I think, if he improves the Arsenal midfield and goes on to become one of their best players, then he'll definitely be worth it. I personally don't get too hung up on transfer fees. It's not my money. So I think when it comes to that kind of stuff, if they want to spend big money and they feel he's the right guy, I think Arsenal have earned the right with their recent recruitment for us to have a little bit of faith in them and trust them that they know what they're doing when it comes to the transfer market. And if they think Rice is worth 105 million, then I'm pretty sure he is worth that much money.
Could you see him also play in the 8 role in a situation?
Yeah. For sure. He's got the running power. He's mobile enough. The one thing you'd need to add to his game is goals because he doesn't get enough goals. But beyond that, yeah, definitely. I think he could be impactful. When he first was linked, I was expecting him to come in that position, I have to admit. But now, obviously, with Kai Havertz coming in, it does seem as though he'll be more of a 6.
Okay. And is there another reason why we'd want Declan Rice? Maybe his leadership, other qualities that you might consider?
Yeah. All that stuff. So in terms of Granit Xhaka leaving, there's going to be a big hole left in the dressing room. It needs filling, and Declan Rice does seem like the kind of guy who can step up and fill it. He is fit all the time. That's a big factor that Arsenal have to consider when it comes to these kind of things. Arteta has said when you come to crunch time in the season, you need your best players fit. Declan Rice has hardly ever been injured. I think he's missed a couple of games, one due to illness and one due to suspension over the past 2 or 3 seasons. That's a very impressive record when you consider he is the most important player in the West Ham team and plays in central midfield, which is the position that arguably requires the most running on the pitch. So, yeah, all those things to consider: leadership, fitness, technical ability, physicality in the middle of the park as well. Lots of things go in his favour that Arsenal would definitely want to add into their midfield that maybe they feel they didn't quite have as much last season.
Now, at West Ham, do you feel like we're going to see more than what he was able to do at West Ham because he's going to have much better players around him? Because a lot of people are questioning – they're not questioning the player. They're more or less questioning if he can get to another level. And some people around the sport are saying that he can definitely go another couple of levels. I just want to know what you might think and what some of the people at Arsenal might think of how good this guy could actually become.
I think so. I mean, Arsenal wouldn't invest £105 million in him if they didn't think he could get better. He's certainly a player who has areas to improve. Goal scoring, is something that I mentioned before, as is offensive capabilities. But it's interesting. West Ham play a much deeper position on the pitch. They tend to be more defensive side, whereas Arsenal spend more of their time in the opposition half. And I think Declan Rice will be a key part of that. I think his interceptions are going to be massive for Arsenal, his ability to intercept the play, keep Arsenal high up the pitch, keep the opposition under pressure, keep it relentless as well. That kind of stuff is going to be huge. And if you consider where he's coming from, when he first broke into the West Ham team, he was a centre-back that none of us really thought was going to be any good. Now look at him, one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. If you follow that trajectory, he's going to keep on getting better, and better coaches, better players around him. I think there's a real chance that Arsenal could be looking at a real sort of quality Premier League midfielder who's coming into their ranks.
Fair enough. Just before we go on to who's next, Timber. Now, let me know a little bit about what you think about Timber, and what do you think is the encouragement to go and get a player like Timber out of any other player that we could have potentially bought?
I think what it comes down to is Arteta wants to replicate what Alex Zinchenko could do on the left side and have it on the right-hand side as well. So last season, towards the end of the season, those games against Brighton and Forest and Wolves, where Thomas Partey played right back, I think what that was about conditioning the team to get ready to have a new style. Obviously, Zinchenko, when he comes in off the left, basically plays as another midfielder and helps Arsenal build up in a way that none of us really thought was possible until he came in and showed us how to do it in that position. Now Arteta wants the versatility to be able to do it on the other side of the pitch as well. And I think he wants options. Arteta's big thing now is not viewing the team as just a starting 11. It's an 18, 19, 20-man squad. And that is massive, because I think when Arsenal last season were playing, we all knew 8 or 9 of the 11 that were going to play week in, week out. Now we've got no idea pretty much how they're going to line up. Is Kai Havertz going to play as an 8? Is he going to be a striker? Is Declan Rice going to be a 6? Is he going to be an 8? Who's going to play on the left? Will it be Martinelli? Will it be Trossard? Who's going to play at right back? Will it be Timber? Will it be Ben White? There's all these decisions that now need to be made. And I think it makes Arsenal a lot more exciting as a team, especially from a fan's perspective. We can have these debates about who needs to be playing in what position. And I think we feel a lot more confident if an injury were to come, if a player like Jurrien Timber was stepping in, instead of maybe, with all due respect to him, Rob Holding coming in and then someone else moving to right back. I think suddenly Arsenal feel as though they've now got more of a depth and quality in the squad, and that's massive for them.
Okay. And what do you think is next? Would you say it's more outgoings?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I'd say now the focus is on moving players out of the door. They've got a lot of players in that squad. I think there's 30 men who have travelled out to Nuremberg, and that's without the players who still need to come back. When you consider Smith Rowe needs to come back, Matt Turner's away, plenty of others away still as well. So with all that going on, I think there's a lot of, trimming of the squad that needs to be done. Players who clearly have no future at Arsenal who need to be moved on. Many of the players who are on loan from last season will move on, as we mentioned before. Thomas Partey's one, Flo Balogun's one who's likely to, who is open to move on a permanent deal. Charlie Patino, Nuno Tavares, Nicola Pepe, Alex Runarsson. If you can remember, he's still an Arsenal player. Plenty of those kind of guys need to be moved on.
What about Elneny? Would he be moved on this?
No, they extended his contract for another year, so I think the plan is to keep him around. I'd be surprised if he were to go myself, but never say never. But I'd have to say I'd be surprised if Mo Elneny were to move on this summer. But yeah, having done that, then Arsenal will see where they are in terms of what players are left in the squad, what positions they feel need filling, and then maybe later on in the window, as we've seen them do in the past, they'll look to bring in someone else, a fourth transfer, a mystery fourth player, who I'm sure we will be spending the next few months trying to work out who it's going to be.
Could that be a right winger? Could that be a midfielder again? Because we are linked to Latvia. We're linked to who else? Xavi Simon. We're linked to Moussa Diaby every window, it almost seems like. We're no longer going to be linked to Milinkovic-Savic because he's going to Saudi Arabia, apparently. So that's another one we're always linked to. I don't know. You could probably think of 100 names that we're always linked to in the transfer window. But yes. Do you think all of this stuff is just speculation, or is there genuine contacts with these clubs that are ongoing that we might not know about?
If Arsenal are interested in players, they would have made early movements. Eddie's been planning this transfer window since well before March. I spoke to him in March and he said, yeah, we've got our plans in place for the summer. So they know what they're doing this summer. They know what the plan is. Now it's a little bit more reactive. It could be a right winger. Let's say if Nicola Pepe goes and Flo Balogun goes and they feel they need another body up front. Could be a midfielder if Thomas Partey and Albert Sambi Lokonga leave and they feel they need another body in the midfield. So there are lots of places where Arsenal could look to strengthen. They could even want to bring in a fullback if Tavares and Tierney both go. So lots of areas of the squad that will need strengthening potentially. I think at this point we just have to see who leaves Arsenal and then they make the decisions after that.
Fair enough. There is a big rumor about Balogun to Chelsea. I'm not sure if you've been able to see any of those rumors that have been floating about today. But basically, the rumors are that Flo Balogun could be potentially headed to Chelsea football club, and Arsenal would Arsenal consider selling him to a direct rival like that?
Are Chelsea a direct rival right now? Arsenal going for titles. Chelsea are in 12th. No, I'm joking.
That's true.
I'm joking. I think Chelsea will be the direct rival very soon. I don't know, quite frankly, if Arsenal would be willing to sell him to Chelsea. I personally haven't heard anything concrete on that to suggest it's definitely going to happen. So he's a good player. I think he would improve Chelsea if you consider the lack of number 9s they've got in their squad. But they have already signed Nico Jackson, if I'm not mistaken. So that is a player who they've got in through the door already. With that going on, I don't know. It doesn't quite make sense to me, that rumour. I know he's got interest from other teams in the Premier League. He's got interest from RB Leipzig as well. Teams in Italy as well are very interested in him. So he's got lots of options. I think maybe he'll wait and see who comes in first before making a concrete decision. But interesting that those links have appeared.
I find the whole Balogun situation interesting also because I see a lot of fans want him to stay over a player like Eddie Nketiah, but there's not as many offers for Eddie Nketiah as there would be for Balogun. So could it be a situation where Arsenal see an opportunity to sell an academy player for a decent fee, and the reported fee is around 50 million? But do you think that's a realistic fee that we can get?
No, I don't think Arsenal will get 50 million, but a bit how like West Ham were demanding 120 million for Declan Rice at the start of the window. I think Arsenal have gone in with that. Their asking price, and they'll be willing to negotiate down from there. You don't go in saying, oh yeah, we'll accept 30, but pay us 50. That's just not how negotiations work. So Arsenal have gone in with a big offer, and they'll be hoping to get something near that. But listen, 40 odd million, Flo Balogun, highest scoring under 21 forward in Europe, if I'm not mistaken, last season. Very exciting player, US international. So think about all the commercial revenues that could come with that as well if he signs for your club. So yeah, definitely potential there. I don't know if many of the European teams would be able to get that sort of fee of a sort of build up that sort of fee to get Balogun through the door, which does make you think maybe Premier League is more of an option. But again, that's just an opinion. I'm not 100% certain on that.
Okay, fair enough. There is also what takes Arsenal so long to make announcements? Because we've been waiting for Declan Rice and Timber announcements for so long. It seems like the anticipation is just killing me at this point. It's like,
I know the anticipation lasts so long that it's almost it feels a bit of a underwhelming when it actually does end up happening. But
yeah,
Arsenal are very aware of how social media works, and they're very savvy when it comes to that. The communication staff are very in sync with one another, and they're very keen to, I guess, give each announcement its day in the sun. So they wanted to make sure Alessia Russo last week had her sort of time to shine. Reece Nelson, same for him. William Saliba, same for him. You have to remember there's a lot that they've got to get through as well. Whilst the team are all now currently in Germany, a lot of the social media team are out there as well. Jurrien Timber, I imagine that'll be announced relatively soon. Could be today, could be tomorrow, could be the day after. I don't know exactly when. But when that does get confirmed, I think it will just be a case of Arsenal having to make sure. They're a club that likes to make sure every single last possible, every I has been dotted, every T has been crossed, all that kind of stuff. So they won't go until they're 100% ready.
Yeah, and preseason's around the corner, so they're gonna probably announce him soon. I remember Zinchenko was not even announced, but he was already at the game, and we already seen him. In
yes.
All the
yeah.
Gabriel Jesus last year, we seen photos of him in the Emirates. Someone must have got fired that day, taking photos in the Emirates, posting it online. But yeah, we got one comment here. Big up for the super chat. I'm not exactly sure what country that is, but big up to you for the super chat. How much are Arsenal planning to generate from sales? Also, do you think the delay in the Caicedo deal from Chelsea could help Arsenal come in if the squad is more trimmed? And aside, there is a lot of movement in the backroom staff. Was it planned? We actually already spoke about the backroom staff earlier in the video, but of course, if you could just maybe talk on the Caicedo part of that.
Yeah, sure.
But we can go back in for him if we make a lot of sales.
Well, so the plan in January was to get both of them in, both of them being Rice and Caicedo. As it stands now, and this was before Jorginho came in, however, and I wonder if that changed when Jorginho came in, because Jorginho's done a really good job for Arsenal, and they view him as a safe pair of hands and experienced player and popular member of the squad. I have to say, at this point in time, I'd be very surprised if Arsenal did get Caicedo in, purely because it seems that Brighton want north of £100 million for him. Two £100 million players in one window is a big ask, and especially when you consider that Arsenal are pretty set in that position already, the number of players they've already got in that position. I would be surprised if we saw Moises Caicedo come to Arsenal. That's not saying it's definitely not going to happen, but I have to say with Declan Rice coming in, I'd be surprised. So I wonder if, Chelsea seems like a more likely destination. But, Arsenal are hoping to raise, in answer to the first part of the question, more than £100 million in sales. Obviously, Xhaka's already gone. There's 20 million there, so they're already en route to that. Balogun to talk about another 40. Plenty of other players who could go for big money as well this summer. Tierney's another one who could generate decent fees. So I think it will depend on what clubs come in for them, what kind of fees are on offer. But yeah, around the £100 million mark is what Arsenal are looking at getting. But I don't think they'll sort of nail themselves down to we have to get £100 million or this is a failure. I think it will just be a case of seeing what comes and when it does.
Fair enough. Quickly, moving on to the preseason. Preseason is always entertaining for you. You get to go around the whole world. Unfortunately, you're not going to be going to Germany. Is that right? Or you?
No, I am. Yeah, I am.
Okay, because I thought you'd be there by now.
No.
So what's your plan going to be for like preseason? And just let me know, like, how is it going to preseason, going to these events and everything across America and all over the world?
Yeah, it's great. You get to meet some really cool people out there. The American fans are like none other. They're really dedicated to Arsenal, and they're really into the fan culture around it, which is really nice. It's always fun to be around them. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to meeting as many people out there. You get really good access to the players as well, which is always good. You get good access to the manager, and hopefully, we'll see what happens with that. It's looking like it's going to be a really exciting summer. Germany, I think, is just going to be, I'm going to be there for the game only, and then post-match press conference, that kind of stuff, and then back the next day. So yeah, it's going to be a really exciting summer. I'm really looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing as many of you guys out there in America if you're traveling. So it should be fun.
I'm looking forward to the game against United. It's always fun beating one of the teams in the top six. It'd be nice to beat United like we did beat Chelsea last year in America. We beat them 4-0. So if we could do the same thing, replicate that kind of performance against Man United, it would be great. But really and truly, wins and losses in preseason don't matter. It's just to get us ready for the new season. And the best part about this season is we have majority of our business done over the line. How much more business we can do, I don't think anybody really can put a finger on it with Arsenal. It's very spontaneous, as you said. Now, with the preseason, do you think we're going to get to see Kai Havertz playing in the majority of the games? We're going to see a lot of these guys playing? Or is it going to be a situation where it's a lot of substitutions and we're not going to get to see them playing too much?
I think there's always a case of lots of substitutions happening. But Arteta was interesting last season. You mentioned that Chelsea game where it was pretty much the first 11 that we saw throughout those first sort of pre-World Cup part of the season. And they almost played entirely, and the subs they made were very late on. They didn't really make any subs until the 70, 80-minute mark. So I wonder if they'll see something a little bit similar to that once Timber and Rice are a bit more up to speed. Bear in mind, it is a lot of it about getting them up to fitness. So there'll be maybe one game where they look to play a few more younger players and give them a chance. One game where they look to go for a few more experienced players and try them out against top-quality opposition. So, yeah, interesting. I think it'll be a mixture between the two.
Oh, big up my people from India. Amazing super chat. Thank you for that. Let's continue. What do you think is going to be the best 11? Can you put a finger on it at this moment in time?
Tough. Let's go for Ramsdale in goal. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
I think still Ben White, but it'll be interesting to see what Timber does. Beyond that, Saliba and Gabriel, Zinchenko, Rice, Havertz, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, Jesus is mine.
Okay. And do you think this rumor about Tchouaméni and all these things, do you laugh them off, or when you see these, do you actually say, you know what, there's a possibility there?
Listen, in somewhere where Arsenal spent £105 million on Declan Rice, you can never laugh anything off. But I'd be surprised for the reasons I announced before when it comes to the Caicedo deal. A lot of money, a lot of wages. I don't know if Real Madrid want to sell. I don't know if he wants to leave. So lots of things going on there. And if he did come to Arsenal, it would kind of scupper the whole plan. Lots of things have been lined up for them to play a certain way this season. Of course, Tchouaméni is a superb player, and I'd love to see him at the Emirates in a red and white shirt, but I'd be surprised if we do end up seeing that this summer.
And I don't know if you see this, but a lot of Arsenal fans online have been saying that Jesus, we might need another striker in the future. Do you think there's a plan in place for maybe not this summer, but in the future to get like a Victor Osimhen or get a big name striker coming in eventually? Because eventually I feel like we might look at that attacking end to compete in the Champions League potentially.
Yeah, I'd like to see Arsenal bring in a different type of centre forward. So I think Eddie and Gabriel Jesus and Trossard and Martinelli, they're all very similar in how they play the role. I'd like to see Arsenal with maybe a more traditional number 9 in the squad just to mix it up a bit. I'd have loved Arsenal to sign Ivan Toney before all his betting stuff happened. I think that would have been a great addition to the squad. Having said that, I don't know if it's a priority for Arsenal right now. Obviously, Balogun's there, Trossard, Nketiah, Jesus, Martinelli, I all mentioned them before. Havertz can also play in the position. So I don't know if they'll be looking at getting a striker this summer. Maybe, like you say, in the future, they'll look to revisit it and we'll see what happens going forward. But Gabriel Jesus is a very, very good player in that position. So it looks like they're relatively set for now.
Okay. And with so there is also the Lavia part, because we have been linked to Lavia a lot. And I know you've seen the links to Lavia. Everyone has been speaking about it. He's linked to Liverpool heavily also. Is it that Arsenal are not willing to pay the money that Southampton want, if I'm not mistaken?
Listen, I haven't heard anything concrete on Romeo Lavia, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that deal. What I would say is that he's got the same agent as Nketiah, Balogun, Saka, all those kind of guys. So there's definitely a connection between Edu and the agency there. I think that deal would be doable for Arsenal. It's just a case of Southampton budging on the price. I wonder if maybe it gets close towards the end of the window. Southampton might think, wow, we really need to sell him to make a bit of money because they're in the Championship and they need to reinvest and get back to the Premier League. But have to wait and see on that front.
Okay. And what about the fact that you've probably seen this? Arsenal are now one of only the second club in world football that have a squad value over a billion pounds. And that's mostly because of the new contracts that we've given out. So are people looking around at Arsenal, giving all these new players new contracts and saying, wow, Arsenal mean business by giving all these new contracts, signing all these players? Or is it just people are looking around and saying, you know what, this is normal? Because I feel like a lot of fans look at this and they don't give the credit that deserve to the board.
The reputation around Arsenal certainly changed from it being a club where in the past you think, oh, we can go and get their best players, Samir Nasri, Robin van Persie, Cesc Fabregas. It always felt like Arsenal's best players would eventually leave. Sanchez is another. Now, it doesn't seem that way. It seems as though the best players at Arsenal are here to stay, and I think that's a massive difference from the past. I think that's where Eddie's done a really good job, and obviously the finances of the Premier League have changed. The Champions League money coming back in makes things different. But Arsenal are in a position where it's a lot cheaper to hold on to their best players and to hold on to academy talent than it is to go out and buy someone. So with Saliba, for example, replacing him, you're looking at 80, 90 million pounds. It's a lot cheaper to keep him on a couple $100,000 a week personally, and then maybe sell him a few years down the line if they do indeed need to sell him. So that's from a sheer business point of view, it does just make sense to try and keep those guys in the building. And obviously from a footballing point of view, if you want to win the biggest trophies, you need the best players. Someone
was asking, do we buy a backup right winger for Saka? I think Reece Nelson, no?
Yeah, Reece can do it. There's obviously Fabio Vieira in the squad, Emil Smith-Rowe. Jesus has played out there in preseason already this season. Eddie's played there in the past. Trossard can do it. Martinelli can do it. There's lots of options who can play on the right wing. Havertz can do it as well. But I don't know for now. I think it, again, depends on the outgoings, like we said earlier in the show. So if Arsenal sell players, potentially they'll be able to bring players in.
And the Kroenke's involvement in the club, I feel like it's changed a lot. Because before it was Silent Stan, now it's Josh really involved and doing a good job in what they're doing. Do you think the reputation at Arsenal, a large part has to do with the ownership's involvement and how they've transformed their way of doing things?
I think they've appointed very good people. So they've appointed Edu and Mikel Arteta have been really good at their jobs. But I think the ownership have always been really supportive. And whenever you talk to people inside the club, they always speak very highly of the ownership. Obviously, we can never forget about the Super League because that was awful and a terrible decision and one of the worst things that have happened in Arsenal's recent history. But I do think it's worth pointing out that they backed the club financially. They've been willing to go for it, and that does seem as though it's now yielding results. So, yeah, I think they're a big part of the reputation change around the world.
Okay. And we got 260 people in the chat. Do me a favor. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you can do that. And of course, do subscribe to Kia's channel also. Link is in the chat, in the description there. So what's the plans for you, man? You got a book coming out. You got something you're going to be doing yourself? Because like you got so much intel. I'd love to hear like if we do go on to win the league or we do something, then like have a magical season, you might have so much insight, you might not be able to tweet about it. So
maybe I'd love to. I don't know if I've got time to write a book, I'm afraid. I'm very busy with lots of stuff going on. Make sure you buy Charles Watts' book. That looks really interesting. I want to read that.
Definitely.
But I don't know if I'll be able to get a book out. The YouTube channel is taking up a lot of time. All this stuff is taking up a lot of time, writing articles, doing social media. So very busy at the minute. But maybe if the season goes really well, maybe if there's a book-worthy season, I'll see if I can get a book out on it.
You know what? That was a nice way of asking. Do you think it could be a book-worthy season?
Oh, for sure. I think Arsenal have got themselves into a position where the squad is much stronger than last season, much stronger in the areas where it was really weak last season. And I look at the squad now and I see the number of players they have in each position, and I'm assuming they get the players out the door they want to get out the door. And it looks really good. It looks like this is a squad that's capable of challenging in the Premier League. Obviously, it'd be interesting to see how they manage Champions League football being back at the Emirates for the first time in 7 years. But why not? I think they can definitely challenge Man City for a trophy for sure.
Do you think the expectations going into the season for Arsenal is like just focus on every game at a time, see where we are like we were last year? Or do you think it's like we have to win now? Because I feel like a lot of attitudes from the fans is this is a do or die season for Mikel Arteta and the players, but not in the sense of people are going to get sacked, more in the sense of you have to prove it to us that we can actually get over the line on something.
Tricky. I don't know. I don't know if I go so far as do or die. I think if Arsenal challenge for the Premier League this season and they run City really close and they lose out towards the end, then yeah, I think we can argue it's been a good season. But the ambition is to win it, because they've got themselves really close last season and they've really strengthened well this season. So yeah, the plan is to win it, and fingers crossed they're able to do that.
Fair enough. And looking across the landscape of the Premier League, do you feel like our competition has gotten any stronger from the City perspective, Manchester United perspective? I feel like Arsenal have been the most active in the window, and we've really put ourselves ahead. Like,
yeah,
a couple of years ago, we were down 3 games, 3 losses. Everyone was laughing at us. We haven't made any signings at that point. Things have changed so quickly where all our business almost seems done. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it is only the 10th of July, so it's very, very early, isn't it, to be getting all this business done. I wonder if it's maybe too early to draw conclusions on the strength of the transfer window, because City are linked to players like Josko Guardiol, who is one of the best centre-backs in Europe. Liverpool are being linked to some very good players. They've already brought in Szoboszlai and McAllister, who are 2 very good players as well in their midfield. So lots of options there, lots of energy there. Man U are going to bring in players as well, depending on what happens with their takeover. So yeah, I think maybe a bit too early to say Arsenal have done really well in the transfer, as in by comparison. But yeah, they're looking pretty good. Thus far, you could say they've won the transfer window, but there's nearly 2 months to go still.
Fair enough. Big up everyone in the chat. Honestly, this is a quick one. Dusan Vlahovic is not going to happen. Come on, we know this by now. We keep seeing links from Dusan Vlahovic. It's not concrete at this point. We'll talk about concrete transfers in the next show. But for now, I bid you guys adieu. Kia, always great to have you on. Let the people know what you got planned though. You got your YouTube channel. You got a video loading up soon.
Yeah, hopefully relatively soon. I don't know if I'll get time to do one today, but I'll definitely try and get one out tomorrow. The YouTube channel is Kaya Kaynak 97, as you can see on the app there. Same on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram at Kaya Kaynak FL and Facebook Kaya Kaynak Journalist. So yeah, give me a follow on all those social medias. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching and all your questions. Really enjoyed being on.
No, honestly, enjoy yourself. Hope you have a great trip over to America for preseason, and of course in Germany and everything. And yeah, also Charles Watts, I would love to have him on one day. If you can maybe tell him, give him a little nudge, let him know. I'd love to have him on. It'd be nice because he never responds to my messages. But yeah, have a good one, everyone. You guys have yourselves a wonderful day. And of course, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to Kaya's channel also. And of course, I'll catch you guys on the flip side on the next one. Have a wonderful day, everybody. We're out of here, people. Peace. Love for the love. Where is it? There you go.